Content warning. On this podcast, we discuss sensitive issues, including but not limited to swearing, tasteless jokes, situations of a sexual nature, and drug use. This podcast is not intended for children. Hello, and welcome to Bibliowrecks, where we read the worst stories the world has to offer. I'm Bugs.
And I'm Bam Bam.
And we are getting ready to wreck your week.
Yay.
So what are we reading this week?
We're reading Godsfire by Cynthia Feliz.
Is this the one with the picture of the cat on the front?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm excited.
It's weird and 70s and horny.
Oh, the best.
Yeah. Now, this is a book I came across as... it's just a really weird image, and someone used it as a meme, like just saying, "What the fuck is this?" Like several years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I tracked it down and I found the book and I bought it, and then I'd never read it. And I'd been meaning to read it for like years.
We finally gave you an excuse.
Mm-hmm. The real thing that got me to actually read this was a review I read of this book on Goodreads.
Okay.
The guy that left the review refers to the main human character in the story as a cuckold.
Oh, no.
And, yeah, everything that he described about the story was through that lens. And I was like, I'm betting he's wrong about this.
Oh, fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So you read this thinking this guy has to be biased.
Yeah.
There's no way this book is what way he's describing.
There's no way. It's a little bit that way. So it was something to read. I'm still not sure exactly where I stand on it.
You don't know how to feel?
There's just a lot that goes into it. It's science fiction.
Nice. I love sci-fi.
I feel like it's mostly just a big exercise in world building.
Okay.
So this is kind of going at it from, what if we were to make contact with an alien civilization that had no human contact? What would that be like?
Neat.
Is where I thought this was supposed to be at.
Okay.
And it super isn't.
Oh. Huh.
So the race of beings that this story is centered around are anthropomorphic cat people.
Right.
And they're kind of in their medieval age.
So they follow similar to human history, and they've gone through the Stone Age, the Iron Age, all of
Roughly,
that stuff.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they've got like weapons, but it's like just swords and spears and stuff.
Right. They're not the ones doing the ship flying across the
Yeah,
galaxy.
no, they're very much 1400s era, technologically speaking, maybe a little earlier than that.
Right.
Like, they just don't... It seems like they haven't really explored a whole lot of their world, weirdly.
Oh, okay. So kind of like a pre-Columbus, pre-Western expansion.
Sort of.
Is it kind of an idea of like a European history? Like European Middle Ages?
Yeah, that's roughly the vibe.
Oh, okay.
So they're... In the last couple hundred years, they've just come off of an ice age. So a lot of the geography is still changing. There are floods that are unpredictable, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So the geography is weird. Our main character is named Heyo or Hayo. I'm going to call her Heyo. Or Heo. Maybe
How's it
Heo's
spelled?
better. It's Haeo.
All right. So I could see either way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Heo... Heo is our main character. She is a 16-year-old student of academe, which is kind of just a scholarly pursuit institution.
Is she a cat or a human?
She's a cat.
Oh, we're not following a human interacting with
Nope.
the cats.
And yeah, from that review I read, I would have thought, oh, the human guy must be super involved. He's super not.
Oh. Fascinating.
Like, he's a big part of the story, but he's far from the main point of the story.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. The story starts with her going out and meeting a merchant whose name is Baltzar. Mercantilism is relatively new to her area because she lives in the mountains.
Okay.
They've just gotten out of a really nasty war with the lowlands.
All right.
And that's where the mercantilism was very common, and there wasn't like any concept of like capitalism in the mountains prior to this.
So this is more like a feudal caste state.
Yeah, it's slowly evolving into a more market-driven thing. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason that is because of slavery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because we all know that capitalism loves slavery.
Right.
Baltzar is a merchant, and he has a lot of slaves. Now, they don't have anthro-cat slaves. They have regular hominid human slaves.
Like Planet of the Apes?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot like that.
Okay.
And it's also really weird. It's said several times throughout, they would never take one of their own as a slave because that would be barbaric and disgusting.
So it's very much based on species.
Right. Well, they just don't see
Humans as being sentient?
hominid humans. Yeah. They don't see them as like as intelligent or on the same level or anything like that.
Right.
And it's really hard to explain because the anthro-cat people refer to themselves as human. And they refer to the hominid humans as slaves. Like, that's their race. They are slaves.
I would have hoped that the author would come up with a better name for our species from the cat's perspective.
Yeah.
That's a little weird.
It comes into effect. Like, it makes sense why they do that. Because it's part of, like, their mythology, like their religious mythology, that these weird-looking, furless creatures were brought down by the gods to be slaves.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting
This is
stuff.
cool, yeah.
And it's really funny. Anytime they like look at the humans, especially Heyo, she's like, they are so fucking ugly.
I mean, I would imagine, yeah, they would. A cat person would look at a human as half-baked.
So they refer a lot to like the slaves are like strange and broad-backed. It's also really weird. Like, you can kind of get the feel of what the anthropomorphic cat people are like just by the implication that they say the slaves are really broad-backed. Because it's almost like this author just took her cat and stood them up and was like, yeah, that's what they would look like.
So they literally have the thin,
the
narrow torso,
like that,
and they just have ability to stand up and have. Do they have thumbs?
Presumably. They've also got weird narrow hands, because they also refer to the slaves' hands as being wide and weird.
Huh.
Yeah, it's really strange. Yeah, they also refer to them as being, like, straight-spined, because all the humans just sleep on their back, and anyone who sees that is just like, that is weird. Because the cat
people curl up.
They curl up, yeah.
That's so cute. Oh, my God.
And they think the slaves' teeth are weird.
Because they're not pointy?
Right. They refer to humans as being flat-tip-toothed.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. It's really unwieldy.
It's a mouthful.
Oh, yeah. I got it. I took a minute.
I'm sorry.
It's, I appreciate the help here because I'm struggling to get a lot of these concepts out.
Mm-hmm. Take your time. It's okay.
Yeah. Heyo meets Baltzar, and there's like a stigma against merchants a little bit. Like, merchants have improved the mortality rate of children in the area because they've got more regular fish coming in, instead of everyone trying to live off of mushrooms.
Mushrooms?
Yeah, mushrooms.
But they're cats.
Well, here's the thing. Even though regular cats are obligate carnivores, these ones aren't. It's very inconsistent on how these cat people are.
Okay, because I was going to say, I know dogs can eat, like plant matter and stuff, and actually get nutrition, but I didn't think cats could.
Right. Yeah, cats are obligate carnivores.
Yeah.
And dogs, they can eat like grains and stuff.
Yeah.
And be relatively healthy.
Right.
So that's another thing. They know what dogs are.
And they're not intelligent? Are they pets? Like?
Well, they use the dogs as like a comparison to the slaves. So like Heyo is comparing one of the slaves named Tion to a dog, and she's just like, well, he's definitely more intelligent than a dog. And I'm just like, why do you guys have dogs?
Are the dogs pets too?
A lot of the flora and from what I can grasp from the text, they're also pets.
That is so interesting.
But a lot of the flora and fauna in the world are just regular. Like, it's just kind of
Not different. Like, not alien.
Yeah.
They didn't work too hard to create...
Yeah, I don't feel like this is alien enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
For cats to be the dominant mammal species, you would expect the world to be pretty different.
Yeah, like if it's totally disconnected from humanity altogether, then yeah, that's what I would expect.
Right.
But for some reason, it's not written that way. But yeah, mushrooms are a really big staple in this world because the entire race of cat people who live on this planet live under a ring. This planet has a ring.
All right.
And they don't see the sun for the ring. Like, they refer to, like, sunlight as, like, the glow or the afterglow. No one on this planet has ever seen the sun.
So, they're...
Or their sun, rather.
Right. They're on the equator? Like...
Yeah, roughly.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people think that the sun is a myth.
Interesting.
And they refer to the sun as Godsfire. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just relatively darker on average where all this happens. I mean, it makes a little more sense that they're cats because they can see in the dark better. Mm-hmm. And they tend to keep a sleeping schedule like cats. So they'll sleep for like a couple hours at one part of the day and like a couple hours at the other end of the day. And they don't refer to like days and nights. They refer to like, as far as I can tell, like day is just completely replaced with twilight. And I'm not entirely sure what that means.
I guess, is it to give you the idea that they're always in, like,
relatively darker.
like dusk, like it's kind of a perpetual dusk,
Yeah.
except they have, like, a true night and then more of
Yeah.
a dusk instead of a full daylight?
Yeah, something like that.
So that's why there's just all these mushrooms? Is it like a wet planet, like swampy or marshy?
It's not like wet. I guess, I mean, mushrooms do generally grow better in the dark, right?
Yeah, but they also usually need humidity.
Right. I think they're like propagated.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's a crop.
So the cats farmed mushrooms
Yes.
and became the dominant species. Fun idea.
Yeah.
All right.
So they also exclusively sleep on moss.
All right.
I don't. There's no explanation. I don't know.
So it's soft, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it seems comfortable. And their sense of time, or their grammar for time, is sticks. I can't understand it. Lily had an explanation, like maybe they mean like candles, like candlesticks.
Do they use fire?
Yes, they do use fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sticks. How do you have like an example?
Yeah, they at one point in the text they talk about humans sleeping roughly 8 sticks every night because they thought that was weird because they sleep for like 2 or 3 hours a couple of times a day. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking relatively a stick of time is about an hour.
Right.
Because most humans sleep about 8 hours a night.
Right.
So
I guess it was probably the author just saying, "What can I be creative? How creative can I be? What's my strong spot?" And they were not strong with some of the plants or other materials.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "I have this great idea for a different time system."
and it's just plug and replace, and to me that feels a little lazy. Like I feel like you could have done more.
Right.
But yeah, as far as I can tell, that's about the extent of like alienation that we're given. Other than that, everything could just be replaced to just be vanilla human.
Right.
It'd just be a story about that. But back to the actual story beats. Heyo is from Academe, and Academe is just kind of an institution for the betterment of the community. Like they just pursue higher learning, and like if an invention is made along the way, they provide it to the community.
Like a college or
Yeah,
a
sort of,
university.
yeah. Like just an intellectual academy.
Interesting.
So Heyo's big thing is she is a pathfinder and map maker.
Neat.
So she goes, meets Baltzar, asks him a few questions about the lowlands and the travel in between, and Baltzar asks her why she doesn't use slaves to help make her maps. Because slaves have much better eyesight. Because cats have a relatively shorter field of vision.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, they're kind of just blind for...
Long distances.
Yeah.
They're good at like up close. Oh, all right.
So that's what Baltzar does a lot in his travels and why he's relatively more successful, because he treats his slaves better than most people, and like gives them a relative amount of autonomy.
So they work better
Yeah.
for him. Gotcha.
So he trusts them enough to use them to find place markers. This is a totally alien idea to Heyo. So she's just like, I don't think a slave is intelligent enough to give me directions to make my map.
Right. Doesn't trust them to be able to do that kind of intellectual work.
So they talk and they start flirting, and a lot of like their more subtle language is just like body language read off of like their tails and their ears.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more simple to know how someone's feeling, because you're just told what their body language is saying.
And you're not expected to know how cats talk with their tails.
Right.
Because that is pretty alien to humans.
So Baltzar keeps flirting with Heyo, but she's 16. She's just like, I'm not of age.
I was about to ask, how does their age stuff work?
Age of consent is 17.
And they are teenagers at 16. They have human lifespans?
She's kind of owned by someone.
Owned by someone?
Sort of. Like, she has
Like a parent is...
more like a guardian. She has like a master, an academe, who is basically like her legal guardian in lieu of payment. Like, she could buy herself out of his mastership or something. It doesn't really go into it, so.
Is that kind of like what they did in Greece, where you would be a servant while you were a student?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
That sounds about right. So Baltzar's just like, yeah, go over there to my nest and take a nap on some moss. And when she does, she goes and meets another slave woman who's pregnant named Manya.
And that's a human or a cat?
It's a human. I'm going to refer to the cat people as cat people and the humans as human.
Okay.
Even though that's not what the text says.
Right, for simplicity for us.
Yeah, because it's fucking infuriating.
Yeah, that would be just really hard to keep up with for everybody. Thank you. So she meets a human.
Yeah, she meets the slave woman. And Heyo still thinks that slaves are relatively unintelligent and she can just kind of say whatever she wants around them. So she accuses the slave woman that she's been Baltzar's plaything, like sexually speaking. And Manya's like offended. She's just like, that's the worst thing anyone's ever said to me. And she just like leaves.
Huh.
And Heyo's like, no, wait, I need you to look at the...
I didn't know humans had feelings.
But no, she has Manya look up at the ring of the planet. They refer to it as the Sky Bridge. Yeah, Manya can see a lot more detail than Heyo, and Heyo's just like, I don't know.
Because how do you believe them or trust them if you can't verify it yourself?
Right after that, it's like a weird transition. Like, we're apparently expected to understand that Heyo left, some time has passed, she went and got her master, Reller, and came back to talk to Baltzar again, with like just no transition or explanation.
No chapter break?
No.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
strange.
It is strange. And it was a little jarring because I was like, oh, is this the same day? She just left. But no, I think some time has passed because when she comes back, Baltzar has put like a lot of his equipment up for the season. So it's kind of hard to tell. So she brought Reller back to talk with Baltzar because Baltzar knows the new king, who they call the King Conqueror. Talks to him and he flies an idea by Baltzar to see what he thinks. Because the tablelands, the mountainous area, isn't like flush with coin or gold or money. Their plan is to have Heyo travel down to the lowlands to talk to the king and establish their service in lieu of taxes. So that's their big plan.
And the people that they had been fighting were also cat people.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Humans are a relatively new thing to this planet. They've only been around for 7 generations.
Oh.
So...
They showed up to the wrong planet.
yeah. Yeah, that's what happened. the original humans that landed on the planet were part of an excavation team, and one of the teams got lost.
Oh, no.
And them and their descendants for the next 7 generations became slaves.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Heyo packs her stuff up and travels with Baltzar, and she gets to know Baltzar's main slave. His name is Tion, and that's another weird thing. When they actually go and meet other humans later, you find out that his name is pronounced in the human tongue Leon, but when the cat people say his name, they say Tion. And I don't understand that because her master's name is Reller. Like, why can they say L's in his name, but they can't say it in Leon?
Is it meant to be like disrespect?
I think it's just meant to be like, kind of like in Asian languages, they don't have the R sound. So their R's come off sounding like L's. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is.
But then she just wasn't consistent with the...
Yeah, I think she just didn't...
The writing.
Because that comes up like way at the end of the book.
Right.
Because the slaves speak an entirely different language from what these cat people are speaking.
Right.
And I guess it's just kind of just translated for the reader's benefit. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of just weird. So Heyo travels with Baltzar and his slaves to the lowlands. As they're crossing the mountain, they're kind of just playing and chasing each other as they go through the snow. Heyo almost falls into a crevasse.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And she doesn't even see it, like about to, about to drop off of it. Mm-hmm. But Tion catches her and stops her from falling. And this kind of starts the gears turning on, oh, maybe these slaves there's more to them or something.
Right.
Yeah. So they reach a point in travel where they have to rely on Tion's eyes to, get them through and find landmarks and stuff like that. Tion decides that the best route is to go along the coast instead of going through the Badlands, where while it's really harsh, Baltzar is more familiar with it, so he has to trust Tion to actually get them where they're going. Tion just super doesn't want to go to the desert, so he's just like, yeah, I think I can get us there if we just go to the coast. He clues Heyo in on this. She wants to go along with this because she wants to add like a new path to her map.
Right. So she'd rather go paths unknown.
Right. So along the way, she doesn't know whether she can really trust him or not, and she starts counting their steps as they go, and later on Tion was doing the same thing and they come up with the same result, and she's just like, oh, I don't know whether that's a good thing or not.
Because she doesn't know if he's wrong and she's also wrong.
Right.
She's not thinking, oh, that confirms he's smart. Mm-hmm. She's worried, oh God, does that mean I screwed up?
Yeah.
Which is honestly a pretty subtle, good way of showing her lack of trust in him.
Yeah.
I like that.
My only problem with the story up to this point, it's so dry. Like, there's a lot of, personal intrigue and political intrigue and economic intrigue going on, and it's just fucking slow.
Is it just, the part of, the Two Towers where it's just walking through landscape and it's so boring? Yeah,
that's exactly... Because there's nothing... Other than Heyo almost falling off a cliff and dying, nothing really is happening. They're just traveling. And fuck, it's slow. And they talk about world-building stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of world-building going on, and none of it ever comes up again, and I can't bring myself to give a shit about it.
Right.
So they make it to the city. Mm-hmm. And upon getting to the city, Heyo sees a guardian, which is kind of like this planet's priests. Like, their religion is guided by the guardians. And as far as I can tell, it's not really hierarchical. Mm-hmm. Like, a guardian is a guardian is a guardian. She sees a guardian abusing a child.
A human or a cat child?
Abusing a cat person child.
Okay.
So what's happening is there's a specific dream room, because dreams have a really big place in their theology, I guess. This child is doped up on some kind of dreaming medicine. Like catnip or something? Yeah.
Kitty weed.
And this guardian is being tell me your dream, or I'm gonna beat you.
Oh my gosh.
Not exactly like that. That's implied.
Right.
But this lady's just really intense on getting this dream out of this child.
Mm-hmm. So they use children cat for cats for oracles?
No, this is like an unusual thing.
Oh, okay. So this is not like the
Yeah.
oracles breathing in smoke or
Yeah.
something.
So this particular guardian is named Tirana, and she's looking for another dream to give more context to her own prophetic dreams. Mm-hmm. And she thinks that something really bad is going to happen to her in the future. So, and at this point, that's when Heyo thinks to herself, well, they'll never get to see my dream. And apparently, Heyo also has prophetic dreams. And she just keeps that vague for now. And that's when Baltzar comes up and he says, the king wants to see you, like, right fucking now. So
Wow.
she bolts it to the king. And when I was telling Lily about this, she said she thinks the king is autistic.
Okay.
Because she's like trying to talk to him about taxes and important political stuff. And he's just like, how do you build your bridges? How do you build your houses to withstand earthquakes?
Huh.
And he's just really interested in just like the logistics and stuff like that. And honestly, he seems charming. I liked this character. Mm-hmm. Because he just seems like really interested in just the infrastructure of another culture. And I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
So, but he gets angry when he learns that Heyo is underage.
Oh.
So they were kind of a little bit flirty, but the reason he's mad about her being underage, he thinks that Academe sent a child to, like, mock him.
Oh, and that she's not like an equal.
Right. And she's just like, no, if they wanted to just entertain you, they would have sent a courtesan. They sent you a map. Mm-hmm. So that's when Tirana comes in, and she scares the shit out of the king. Like, he is like a big, battle-worn, crazy Catman king. And he, like, quails in fear of this guardian because he also has prophetic dreams.
Right.
And he has... I don't know what casting a dream is. The text refers to it a couple of times. And as far as I can tell, it's just telling someone what your dream was about. But over and over again, Tirana tries to get Heyo to cast her dream with her. Mm-hmm. And as far as I can tell, it's just tell me your dream, but angry. Because after this, Tirana catches Heyo outside a couple of days later, and she finds that Heyo also dreams, big emphasis dreams. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, cast your dream with me, or I'm going to fight you.
So is the streaming a way of them, like, seeing the future or having secret knowledge? Is it actually a legitimate way for them to have secret knowledge, or?
As far as I can tell, it's just prophetic, as in, like, they're going to see a special event in their future. Or something that could be...
So it's a personal prophetic
Yeah.
dream. It's not like, I can see the future of a war. Mm-hmm. Or what's going to happen 200 years from now.
Yeah. So Tirana's dream is she thinks that she is going to be lost in the Evernight Mountains for the rest of her life. Huh. She's going to see Godsfire and then be trapped in the Evernight Mountains forever. She cast her dream with the king, so that's why they have a connection. The king sees a bright, blinding light coming and destroying his cities. And they're both trying to work their way to preventing that.
Right.
And they find out about Heyo's prophetic dreaming. The king is, like, more respectful of her. Like, he politely asks, and when Heyo says no, he's like, okay, that's your thing. I respect that. But Tirana's just like, I'm going to claw your eyes out. You're being so disrespectful to your king, you mountain trash.
Wow. Mm-hmm. The world building includes a lot of this lore and history, then. Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I like a lot of the world building stuff. I just wish it had stopped at some point, because it just keeps adding, like...
Oh, it becomes overload.
Lore and, like, cultural stuff throughout the entire book, like, all the way to the end.
Right.
And it's just, like, little things that just don't matter. Like, the maps are made out of doe skin. Their clothes are spider thread. So they also have spiders on this planet.
That they farm?
I guess it's like collecting wool from sheep or something.
Neat.
So Heyo doesn't cast her dream. It's like a very personal thing for her, I guess. Mm-hmm. So Heyo, Baltzar, and Baltzar slaves, Tirana, and the king all return to the Tablelands, which is the mountainous area where Heyo's from. And now is the part of the story where it, like, slows down even more.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. We get to know Relar some more, who has, like, control of, like, Heyo's courting ability.
Right.
Like, she wants to court Baltzar. Like, it's a very formal kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And it takes, like, 4 chapters to explain all the intricate relationship stuff. I'm going to just knock it all down.
Wow, so they go into detail about, like, courtship rituals?
Yeah. Well, not only just the ritual, just the relationship connections. Like, Heyo has a friend who is a former prince named Chell, who ducks in and out of the story. And for the most part, unnecessary. You could just have him be a military guy at the end of the book, and he would roughly serve the same function.
Gotcha.
So, Heyo wants to court Baltzar. She's fallen ever more deeply in love as time went on. Baltzar wants to be a big shot aristocrat. So he just wants to run with whores.
Oh, he doesn't want
courtesans,
to marry.
Yeah. He wants to pair up with a courtesan and just do that for years and years at a time. This gets Heyo in a huff. There's also another weird thing. They refer to several times as, like, playing, and I don't exactly know what... I feel like there's some cat fingering going on, and it never says it explicitly, but there's, like, something dirty happening, and I don't know what it is. But it's not sex.
It's not sexual, but it is playing in a weird way.
Yeah, it's like petting.
All right. Is it supposed to be like where they groom each other?
Maybe.
Huh.
I don't know. It's really weird. Like, anytime they're getting intimate, there's a lot of, like, petting. Like, literal petting. Like you would do, like a person would do on a cat.
Oh.
Like that for these anthro-cat people.
Right. That's a little weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And it gets weirder. So, Heyo keeps taking Baltzar out on these little excursions and stuff like that. Trying to, show him, like, where resources is, make some more maps, have an excuse to be around Baltzar some more. Mm-hmm. So, also around this time, the king and Tirana have sent, like, a bunch of students to Academe and, like, given Academe money, which isn't, like, a usual thing. They kind of just take them in as, like, slave labor. Mm-hmm. But they usually get them when they're, like, really young and impressionable and stuff like that. But they sent, like, older people who already have their allegiance to the king and the guardians.
Oh, so more of political intrigue kind of thing?
Yeah, there's a bunch of that stuff going on.
Hey. You know who won't bore you to death with political intrigue?
Oh, God. I hope it's you the next episode.
These ads.
Yay.
Hello, Biblio fans, friends, and fiends. Just taking a moment to tell you how to find our growing community. We're on Facebook and Instagram, where I try to post pretty often. And we have a subreddit that we will start using as soon as Bam Bam gets over his crippling fear of Reddit. And of course, our YouTube. Look us up at Bibliowrecks. We would love to hear suggestions and chat about bad books there, as well as over email, bibliowrecks@gmail.com. That's spelled Bibliowrecks. Thank you for listening. Now let's get back to that bad book.
And we're back for more Space Cats.
Space Cats.
Space Cats. This is the second time we've done Space Cats.
In a pretty close period of time, too.
Maybe I have a thing. Don't worry about it.
All right. You have to watch The Cat from Outer Space, but you cannot torment me or Lily with it.
Lily already had me watch it.
Oh, you watched it? Mm-hmm. Isn't it awful?
I hate it.
It was so bad. We had to watch it over and over and over when we were kids. And it was just the worst.
All right. So, Academe as a whole is refusing to teach these new students who are too old. Tirana, the guardian, is just like, you just don't want them because they won't pick up on your heretical beliefs. And the academians are just like, yeah. Yeah, we want them to learn science, not your stupid shit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's also a lot of atheism-theism debate going on.
Among cat people.
Yep.
That is interesting.
Yeah, because so the religious system is like, it's sort of like the Titan myth in Greek mythology. Mm-hmm. So they've got like these creating gods who are just kind of just forces of nature's given personality. Like you've got Oceana and Terra. Guess what they are?
Right.
Yeah. Then you've got Zephyr and Raingiver. Never get an explanation on what Zephyr does.
Oh, because Raingiver is kind of on the nose, I guess.
Then there's Flame Tender. And Flame Tender is their sun god. He's the one that takes the glow and gives them light every day.
Right.
And then there's a god named Perspicuity.
Okay.
Yeah, does not quite fit the theme.
I mean, that's a regular word, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
What does it mean? I've heard
I had to.
perspicacious.
Yeah, I had to look it up myself. Don't worry, I'll cut all of this. You'll never know that I'm just Googling this word again because I couldn't remember it.
I know, because I can't think off my head what the definition is. Perspicacious. I know that word, but...
Perspicuity means lucidity and clearness of style.
That's-
Something that can be seen through, clearness of style or exposition, freedom from obscurity. I think freedom from obscurity is the...
intention.
Yeah, I
with
think that's
name.
the best intention of the use of it here.
Right.
Because Heyo isn't an atheist, Baltzar is an atheist. Because all he cares about is capital.
Right.
He just wants to make money, and that's his whole thing. Like, he gets mad at Heyo for, like, cutting him out of bartering and, what's the word?
Like negotiations or something?
Yeah, like negotiations. What's it when you go see people in, like, a bazaar in, like, just like a desert area, and you have to, like, negotiate down?
Where you haggle?
Yeah. He likes the haggling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So... that's just his goal in life, is to make money and have power and get cat bitches. So he's the atheist. Of course, the king and Tirana are your religious types. Reller is just science focused. He doesn't have an opinion other than just to push his science goals.
Right.
And Heyo is an agnostic.
Okay.
She doesn't believe that there are or aren't any gods. She just thinks there are more natural explanations than, oh, there's just this silly god who carries a light for us to see by.
And these are all cat-shaped gods, right?
It doesn't go into that.
Oh, okay.
It just kind of personifies them and leaves it at that. Like, they think Raingiver just has a bucket of water that he just splashes out on the land anytime. He walks on the sky bridge and just rains it down.
Okay.
So that's the level of their religious
Right.
affectation. So that's when Tirana says, since you're not going to be taking our students, the least you can do is give me Heyo's dream.
Wow.
Yeah, super out of pocket.
Wow.
Like, Tirana was barely involved. She could have just not been in the room.
Man, coming in hot.
And, the king just doesn't have it. Like, he throws a fit. He's like, stop asking her for her dream. We care about consent.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, the king's really, like,
He's not pulling his weight or, pushing himself, like pushing around of, oh, you have to do what I say because I'm the king.
Right.
He's more like, we have rules and, like,
this isn't how we talk to people.
Social status. This is how this isn't socially appropriate.
Right. And it keeps surprising me every time I go back and think about that character.
Right.
Because he's so, like, he's really angry at this point. Like, he yells everyone except for Heyo out of the room, but he's still got the presence of mind to care about Heyo's consent.
Right.
Which is super weird to me.
Kind of wild. This was from the 70s? Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So, this is where we learn a lot more about the theology and their creation myth, because they talk about that and whether there are gods or not. Mm-hmm. They just discuss it vaguely. So in their sort of creation myth, everyone came from the city of refuge. As far as I know, their oral history does not go any further than that.
Oh.
Or any further back than that.
Right.
And then an ice age came, and they had to leave the city of refuge. And now in the last couple hundred years, the Ice Age has receded, and they've came back out, and ever since there have been wars and fighting and resource gathering, a bunch of stuff like that. So it's kind of like when old people think back to the 50s and they're just like, oh, it was a better time, and it probably wasn't.
Right. It depends on who you were.
Right.
As to whether it was better or not.
Because they just have this idealized version of what it was back before the Ice Age times.
Right.
So they go through that. We learn a little bit more world building. Then we go back to Heo trying to court Baltzar. So he shuts her down again. So she's just like, fine, I'm just going to talk to your slaves. And she talks to Tion, who has shown himself to be competent and relatively intelligent by her standard. And they start talking about humanity. Heo doesn't think that humans... Heo,
Hominid humans?
Yeah. Heo doesn't think that the slaves have, like, intelligence enough or free will enough to have their freedom. Like, she thinks, much like a bunch of Southern slave owners, that if
you let them loose, it'll be disaster.
Well, no, she thinks that if they wanted their freedom badly enough, they would die for it over and over and over. That's her argument, and it's weird.
Wow.
So she asked Tion, she's just like, do you want your freedom? Do you think you should be a slave? Like, right in front of Baltzar, the guy who owns Tion. And he just, like, has to just grit through his teeth. He's just like, no, I like being a slave.
Because he doesn't want to get
he doesn't want Baltzar to beat the shit out of him.
by his owner.
Or give him hard labor.
Right. That's interesting.
So... Heo for like 2 seconds, she's just like, oh yeah, see, I was right. And then she like turns back and looks at Tion. He's like death glaring her.
Right.
And the reason this came up is because Tion had a word for them that isn't in their language. And it was cat.
Oh.
Because Tion was complaining that, yeah, we can't just hop around these mountains like you guys. We're not cats. And Heo's just like, what the fuck does that mean?
Right. Do the humans have, like, ancestral memory of having house cats?
Yeah, they. When Heo asks Tion about it, he says, there is such a thing as a legendary creature that we call a cat. So this is idealized in his cultural memory from his other slave ancestors who probably saw cats at some point.
Right.
7 generations ago.
Interesting.
So they've got, like, their own... understanding of the world, I guess. So Heo wants to learn their language and try to get to the bottom of a lot of their cultural differences, because she isn't totally convinced about the Guardian's explanation that slaves were brought there just to be slaves.
Oh.
So that's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. She actually gives a shit about learning, which is I think is cool. That's so neat. She starts to learn how to speak slave. So, also at this time, she finally prevails on Baltzar. He's just like, I don't want my courtesan anymore. I'll marry you, I guess. So, they have crazy virgin cat sex.
Is that described in detail?
No.
Okay.
Because I imagine if it was, it would be a lot of screaming, because cats have barbed penises.
Yes.
Never goes into it.
Something I've been wondering about, the cats have their own language, and the humans have their own language.
Yep.
The humans are able to understand and speak with the cats?
Well, they aren't speaking human language all the time. They're speaking the cat language most of the time. But amongst themselves, they'll speak their own language.
Does it go into how cats and humans have very different vocal cord like combinations and sounds very different? Is that explained?
Nope.
She goes into all of this other stuff and doesn't bother with...
It's an etymological nightmare. Or entomological? Which one's bugs?
Okay,
so it's entomological nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
That's interesting. All this world building and not going to notice the fact that humans probably couldn't speak cat. Not effectively.
Yeah, because like just the structure of their mouths and stuff like that. Like just the different teeth.
Yeah.
And the shape of their face.
Right.
So,
and their ears, don't they hear different sounds and different Like,
Yeah, I would imagine they hear things differently. Doesn't go into that either. There are some
Okay.
things that are like way too thought out, and then other things that
Right.
aren't thought out enough. Like I think that this was the 70s. A lot of people just didn't understand or know about a lot of evolutionary and biological stuff.
and probably our understanding of like cats' biology and how they see things has improved a great deal with
Yeah.
our technology and science now. That
So
it
looking
did.
back at it from 50 years in the future,
Yeah.
yeah, I can
Okay. I can give them a pass on that.
yeah, I'm not super mad at it. So at this point, we have a time skip, a 16-year time skip.
Wait, what?
Because we stop at Crazy Virgin Cat Sex and skip to Heo and Baltzar have a 16-year-old daughter
I knew it. I knew it.
who doesn't hardly come up.
Oh.
Like, she's used as, like, sort of like a political pawn more than anything. I don't ever remember seeing a written line from this character.
Oh. Then why did we skip all that time? Oh.
To give Heo more character motivation and let her learn slave language thoroughly. And she actually becomes an advocate against slavery. 'Cause
Okay.
by this point, she's come to understand that slaves are also people.
And instead of bogging you down with endless details of her learning all this, or doing the stupid thing like in Aragon where they learned all these skills
Immediately, yeah.
overnight,
Yeah.
that is a little more reasonable, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't hate the time skip, but even though you skip all of that bullshit, there's still so much other bullshit. Like, I don't know if it's actually just that bad, or I just don't like that kind of intrigue enough. That, like, this might be written for someone totally different.
Right.
I can't really tell. Anyway, she has a daughter, twin boys, and a new baby girl, and has, like I said, became an advocate against slavery. Mm-hmm. And she's become increasingly more vocal about this over time, so much so that it's become a problem with the Guardians.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's part of the theology that slaves were
Right.
meant to be slaves. Mm-hmm. So, right before a big expedition, Tirana has Heo shunned for blasphemy about slave stuff.
Oh, wow.
The shunning is basically no one will talk to her and no one will like sell her stuff directly.
Wow.
The only people who can really interact with her is her family until she repents.
Right.
So this causes a lot of trouble on the family, like the twin boys. So here's another weird cultural thing. Everyone is like weirdly independent. Like the children, I guess they're just like super developed early because they interact with a human baby at one point and they don't understand why it's so useless. Because they try to set the baby down on its feet and it's a newborn that it just drops it on its face. And I'm just like, oh, this thing's fucking stupid. I hate it.
I mean, human babies are one of the most helpless.
Oh, yeah. Because our heads are so
Newborns.
big.
Yeah.
And I think, like, relative to other creatures, we're relatively,
Useless as babies.
well, yeah, premature. We're relatively premature compared to a lot of other animals.
Because if our brains were any bigger at birth, every mother would die.
Yeah. Let's see.
I think that this author
Mm-hmm.
took some hella drugs and sat down and pretended she was a cat.
I mean, it was the 70s.
And picked up her cat and walked it around and pretended she was seeing humans from this cat's perspective. I wish I could
That's a
meet
really
her. This
funny-
sounds so fun.
She might still be alive. I don't.
Yeah,
I couldn't find anything on it, so I couldn't find a. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find anywhere that she had died. So
Right.
maybe. So the twin boys go off and hunt in the evenings with a bunch of their other friends. They'll like go and hunt down like lizards and stuff, and that's how they get dinner.
Oh,
Yeah, they don't do like family dinners and stuff. It's weird.
I mean, that is very cat-like, though.
Oh yeah. Definitely tracks. So they're more or less also shunned by the other children. Like none of them will hunt with them. So it's putting pressure on them. It's putting pressure on Heo's oldest daughter. because she has like sort of a higher standing job, and it's making things difficult for her. Mm-hmm. And it's making things difficult for Baltzar because he wants to be totally uninhibited at all times so that he can make money and fuck cat bitches. Mm-hmm. So he divorces Heyo.
Because she's not willing to change her perspective, her beliefs.
Yeah.
Even for her family.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a pretty consistent feature for Heyo that she is more concerned about truth than any kind of relative comfort or anything like that.
Right.
So,
she sounds like a pretty amazing main character.
Yeah, in like a political intrigue way. I just don't feel like she does anything other than just talk to other people.
Okay, but like, what is she supposed to do?
I don't know, but it just super doesn't interest me. And I think that's just a me problem.
Oh, you picked this because it just was boring and you didn't like it?
Well, I picked it because it's super weird. I don't know where I land on this, honestly. Like, there's a lot of really good stuff that I like, but also it bored the hell out of me. So I figured I'd talk about it and...
get it out.
Yeah, get it out. So, Baltzar splits. Reller dies because he's also speaking against the slavery and the Guardians in general. Reller's slave gets accused of killing him and is summarily executed along with her child.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Because slaves don't have any kind of rights and can just be killed for no reason. Mm-hmm. So, through all this harrowing stuff, Heyo repent, more or less, and so Tirana wants to refuse the go-ahead for the expedition to the Evernight Mountains because she sees that in her dream that's where she is stuck forever.
Right.
So Heyo wants to go on the mission because she wants to find Godsfire because her dream she finds Godsfire and it's super important to her.
This is before the time jump.
No, this is after.
This is after the time jump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before Reller dies, Heyo has some more personal questions for Tian about why humans have such sloppy mating rituals. Yeah, you know where this is going. So, Heyo just caught Tian making out with another slave at the stew pot.
Okay.
While they were supposed to be cooking dinner. And she's like blessing him out for it because she's just like, that's disgusting. Because the cat people don't kiss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they don't really have like the lips for it. Mm-hmm. So this is a quote. But other behaviors set you apart too, such as, says Tian, why don't you mate civilly, neatly? And he's like, pardon? There is a great deal of promiscuity among slaves and the fashion in which you go about it. Tian was watching me closely. Both of us were wondering how I would finish my sentence. There is an inordinate amount of attention spent on one another's mouths. It seems very much like bucks sniffing the behinds of does in season. So they also have deer on this planet. They also have deer. Yeah. Says, my nose is less sensitive than yours, Pathfinder. Slave women are not seasonal because the cat people are.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Like Heyo goes into heat.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's wild.
Yeah. Like it's unusual for them to have sex unless they're in heat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's like explaining kissing to her and she's just like, ew, how do you not get slobber everywhere? So he's just like, I think you just gotta do it yourself. And they kiss, and it's really weird. He's like sticking her tongue. There's like 3 or 4 paragraphs dedicated to this man kissing this cat.
Oh, weird. Maybe this was written by a closeted furry.
Maybe. Well, so next scene. They're talking more about like sensual behaviors because the thing that like Baltzar does with Heyo is there's a lot of attention to like back scratching and petting, like you do to a cat. So Tian does this. He's like petting her back And she's like kind of getting into it, and she's just like also ashamed because to her this is like bestiality. She's like, I'm so fucking nasty right now. And then Tion like he like pokes her with his dick, and she like flips the fuck out. And like claws him, and he's bleeding, and everyone's upset and stressed. And I was just like, I could have done without that. Hey, Bugs.
Yeah?
You know what won't stick its dick on a cat?
Oh my god. I fucking hope not.
These products and services.
Good grief.
Hey, Biblio fans, friends, and fiends. Just taking a moment to tell you how to find our growing community. We're on Facebook and Instagram, where we try to post as often as we can. We have a subreddit that will start as soon as we get over our crippling fear of it. And, of course, our YouTube. Look us up at Bibliowrecks, spelled Bibliowrecks. We would love to hear suggestions and chat about bad books there as well as over email. Our email is bibliowrecks@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to that bad book. And we're back with penises for our cats.
No. Oh, you know what it made me think of, though, was the videos of cats with cucumbers.
Okay. Yeah, that...
Is that an accurate representation of her feelings?
Honestly, there was a joke that me and Lily came up with about this. We thought maybe these human slaves were actually just humoring these really cute cat people. They're just like, yeah, we'll do hard labor for you, but just let us watch you do cute things.
No, you know what this is? This is how the cats see the world we live in right now.
That... I'll have to think about that. That might be more accurate than I care to admit. Kind of mad I didn't think of it first. So, after that is when Reller dies, and so does Manya, the slave, and Manya's child, who turns out to be Tion's child.
Oh.
So, next day, they're all super bummed out about it. Heyo's bummed out about Reller, and Tion is bummed out about his ex-girlfriend and child being dead. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, I fucking hate all of you. Mm-hmm. And for the rest of the book, he's just kind of just a standoffish dick.
You can't really blame him.
Oh, yeah, I don't, but that's effectively what he is for the remainder of the book.
Right.
So, now at this point, that's when Heyo goes to the temple to repent and admit slaves aren't human publicly. Like, she doesn't actually believe it, but
she wants peace for her family and herself, right?
So, Tirana threatens to boil Heyo in copper if she does not cast her dream.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So, Heyo just steadfastly refuses, and eventually she just passes out in this temple dungeon, and just from water deprivation, or dehydration, that's the word. So she just passes out, and then Tirana's just like, oh shit, I killed her. And she like rushes in and like gets her watered and fed back up. And she's just like, fine, I'll just take your stupid apology for the slave thing, even though you won't catch your dream. And she does that. While that was happening, everybody else that was involved in like the expedition stuff has gotten the king to agree. So now it's out of Tirana's hands altogether. So now they're all going on this expedition to the Evernight Mountains, which is past where the shadow of the sky bridge, or the rings of the planet, shade them. And it's just this entirely mysterious thing that no one has ever reported back from or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So Heyo is like, for the entire trip, she's like icing out everyone who just kind of like screwed her over in like a malicious compliance kind of way for pretty much the whole trip. Tirana has like several slaves to like tend to her, and Tirana is basically a glamper. And Heyo kind of gets back together with Baltzar. Tion is there, and he's standoffish and mad. So they make it past the Evernight Mountains, and they find Godsfire, which is the sun, and Tarana's the first one to spot it as it comes up over the horizon, and she doesn't know to look away.
Oh, no.
And she just continues staring at it like this is this huge magisterial thing for her, and she just like stares at it and goes blind.
It hurts to look at the sun.
Yeah, you'd think she'd stop.
Oh,
But no,
no.
she, for the rest of the book, she's just screaming and blind and just kind of a bummer.
Oh.
So, all of the cat people get blisters and sunburns. Like, they've never had, like, direct UV sunlight like this, because they've always been in the shade of the sky bridge.
Right.
So this is all a completely new thing. And, yeah, Heyo is... she is just exploring, like she's in pain because of the burns and stuff, but she's also like super interested in this new kind of area.
Right.
So that's when Tion's just like, hey, me and the other two slave women are going to run away. And there's nothing you can do to stop us. And he books it.
Right.
And so Heyo's still studying things, and Tion comes back, and she thinks it's weird because Tion is brown now. Because he's gotten a suntan.
Right.
So I think the cat people in the story are just super sensitive to light. Like, they're just not built, they're not biologically equipped to handle UV radiation.
Right. Because otherwise, why would they get a sunburn?
Right.
Because they would be covered in hair.
So Tion comes back, and he's like being super aggressive. Like, I can't quite fathom exactly why he's being like this, other than just being mad at her race in general. But he like gets her by the throat and is like, I could kill you right now. Everything would be fine. And she's just like, yeah, you could.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So, and he's just like, do you want to see what your gods actually are?
Wow.
So she's just like, yeah. So they go further out into the wastes, or what she thinks of as wastes, because it's just further and further from home for her, until they get to this giant flying machine that's like cutting down trees and digging up resources and stuff like that. And she sees a man, what she still thinks of as a slave, hopping out of the ship and landing on the ground. And she's just like, what's going on? And Tion's just like, these are my people. These are your gods.
Wow. These are humans from another planet coming to visit them, or they live there?
They're just a construction crew. They're just on a job. They're mining this, what they think is an uninhabited planet, for resources.
Wow. Huh.
So then they get seen, and they interact with the regular vanilla humans and show them like super technology. Tion gets a shave. He has sex with one of the crew members. It's great for several pages. They get to fly in a ship. Heyo's like shitting her pants, but she's like kind of intellectually still hanging with him, with all of them, even though they're like super advanced technological humans. Like she's able to still intellectualize with them and still understand relatively what's going on. She's not like just in awe at this technology, like, oh my god, you're gods.
Right.
She's just like, yeah, I understand this is just a more advanced kind of technology.
Okay.
Which I really like, because I think that's really cool, because there's a lot of people who think like, oh, if I had a cell phone and brought it back to the 1500s, they would worship me as their technological god king. And like, no, I think
people would be interested and want to inspect it and take it apart and find out how you're doing that.
Right. Like, I think they would be able to recognize that as a device. Or it's like the little thought experiment. You know the Sentinel Island people? I've had so many conversations about that. Like, someone just wants to go over there and just bring like flashlights and shit.
Oh god.
And just like wow them. I'm just like, I don't think they care. And besides that, you'll get shot way before you get onto the beach.
And it's a power trip.
Yeah.
It's, I have technology, I have power knowledge, you don't, haha.
Right. So I'm glad this author did not fall into that trap.
Right. Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah. So they're still discussing like the differences between their peoples, and that's when they find out that Heyo's people took all the crash-landed human survivors and made them into slaves.
Uh-oh.
And one person in particular, her name is Adriana, is super pissed. Like, she takes this way personally.
Wow, yeah.
So she's made it her personal mission. She is going to steal a ship, fly back to the Cat People City, and fuck shit up until they release all of their slaves that their entire economic system is based on. And, like, they have their own version of, like, what do you call it? The thing in Star Trek.
Yeah.
The Prime Directive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They have their own version of that. Like, they super weren't supposed to be taking resources on a planet with an intelligent species.
Right, they thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they bring that up. And Adriana's just like, I'm so pissed off right now. I don't care about any of that. I'm going to rain hellfire down on these stupid primitive cats. And that's what she does.
I could see taking a laser pointer and actually ruling that country.
I'm your god now.
I can see that is how you become god of the cat people. You have a laser pointer.
You want to go to war, you just point the laser at the other guys.
They attack each other. Or you have it and it goes into a crevasse and they all jump in because they can't see long distances. They only see the little light.
Oh boy. So, yeah, this last part of the story just ramps up to 100, like, really fast.
Yeah, that took a turn. Mm-hmm. I was not expecting that.
So, the other humans find out that Adriana is taken off and is going to commit genocide with a construction ship.
Right.
Like, I don't feel like a construction ship should be capable of flattening an entire city.
I mean, if they're blowing up mountains to take minerals, though.
Right.
If you have mining equipment, maybe.
Right. Like, I understand that's plausible. It's just wild to me.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you've heard the story about that guy with the bulldozer who menaced an entire town.
I don't know that I have.
Oh my gosh, you'll have to look it up. This guy was almost a sovereign citizen, I think, and he was really pissed at the mayor of this town, and he turned his either bulldozer or tractor into a tank, and he went and tried to knock down the library, and he went and just tore up this town. You'll have to read about it.
Yeah. So Tion, Heo, and several other the humans that I don't really have the time or energy or patience to go into all their names and personalities. They chase after Adriana to try to stop her from genociding. So they get there, and she's already started, like, burning down buildings, and I don't know what, like, she must have just been, like, really pissed off and was like, God damn it, I need to kill something.
Wow.
So, because she just, like, starts burning down buildings and, like, shooting people, and that's when she finds the king at the palace, presumably the biggest building in the city, and kind of, like, has, like, a showdown sort of thing. Like, he's just pointing his spear at the ship, and it's like, I guess he's like, this is like a big brave moment for him. And for some reason, Adriana just stops firing, and that's when the ship that Heo's on shoots her down. And, like, that whole thing was the king's dream prophecy. Because Tyrannus has already come true, because she's lost in the Evernight Mountains. And, like, it plays it like, I guess she'll always be lost in those mountains because she's blind now.
Oh.
And, yeah, this is the big glow that the king was afraid of destroying his cities. So they shoot down Adriana's ship, and she crash lands in the ocean, disappears.
Wow.
It kind of just speeds through the rest of the story. All the slaves go free. The king is no longer haunted by dreams. Tirana is blind for the rest of her life because fuck her. And Heo is free to pursue knowledge unabated. And that's the end of the story. So, I'm not totally satisfied by this story for some reason, and I can't quite nail down why. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I like a lot of what was going on.
Yeah.
But there's just something that just doesn't quite click for me over to, this was definitely a good book, and I can't quite point out why.
Did we stay with the main character's perspective the whole time?
Yes.
And how was it being, like, inside of her head?
As far as her character goes, she's fairly insightful, like, but also at the same time, it's really well written because she is really insightful, but there are, like, some really clear ignorances. Like, just someone who just hasn't had contact with another culture would feel.
Right.
So, the writing is great. I just wasn't entertained, personally, I think is the crux of it. But
Wrong book, wrong person.
I think that's it. I'm going to give this an A letter grade, but it doesn't, like, wow me or anything. So it's technically really good to me, but I just don't care about it. I'll never, after I'm done with this episode, I'm never going to look at this particular piece of media ever again.
It sounds like it was one of those Marvel movies that have come out recently where it has all of the right pieces of the formula. You have the flour, you have the sugar, you have the eggs to make a cake, but it's missing the vanilla, or it's missing that heart or love that makes it truly satisfying.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's missing for you a piece of it, and it's more like those pieces of media that are more time fillers versus something that makes you really enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably where it's at, but I will stand by an A letter grade as far as, like, writing quality.
I kind of want to read it now.
You're more than
It
welcome.
sounds like something I would actually really enjoy.
If you read this and you can put out your opinion or give me your opinion, or we can just record it and tack it on to the end of this episode before it comes out.
That would
We'll
be
do that.
so funny.
We'll do that here. Editing Bam here. Bugs didn't get a chance to read this book this year, so I guess we'll never know.
What have I signed myself up for?
Well, welcome back. That was Bugs' opinion on Godsfire. I hope it was insightful.
I am always
More
insightful.
More insightful than me, for sure, because I just don't interact with media that way, I guess, a lot of the time.
Well, here's one of the things. You and I have different tastes, but we also have different ways of approaching media. As you were pointing out earlier, I'm a purist. I enjoy the original Godzilla.
Yeah.
I enjoy the original Pink Panther. I get annoyed at movie reboots, book turned into movie, done badly. I am kind of picky. I read a lot, and I really love a lot of books and a lot of genres.
Right.
But I am really picky about what I love.
Right. And as for myself, I will enjoy whatever trash I come across as long as I feel good while I'm doing it.
Right.
Like, if it's just doing it for me, it does
It's
it for
the
me. I don't
potato
think
chips.
of it. Yeah. I don't think of it past that.
Whereas I sit there and I'm like, what was the deeper meaning? What were they trying to do? What was going on here? So that might be kind of interesting to...
See, I like a lot of the stuff that was going on in there. I just feel like it could have been executed better or more entertainingly. Like, I honestly just want to take a lot of these concepts and write my own version of it is what I want.
Right.
I want to take this and I want to punch it up.
And maybe also narrow it down to a smaller
Yeah.
story, a
Yeah.
smaller time period, maybe some fewer characters and a little less world building, and be a little more zeroed in, more focused on the differences in species or how their history converged.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like if it would go more, which I know it was limited at the time, it was the 70s, if it would go more into the differences and the little biological
Intricacies?
the biological intricacies, I would have really enjoyed that. I think that would have satisfied me. That was why I didn't like Annihilation, because it sold a lot of hype and stuff like that. Like, the main character was a biologist, and very little actual biology going on.
Right.
Which I'm a super big biology buff, so that kind of turned me off from that series. Even though I read the other 2 books in that series, and I was equally befuddled and bummed out by those. So, yeah. But I think I've digressed long enough.
That's all right. Thank you so much, Jay and Lily. Thank you so much, listeners. We hope that... What is this with you bringing us good books? We had that Rotten Western not long ago. But before that, you had a fairly nice one about the other cat person.
Yeah.
It was decent.
Yeah.
What is up with that, man?
Well, that came right off of Eat Them Alive, so I needed something really nice.
True.
And this one was... I've had this piece of chicken in my fridge for a week and a half now. I either gotta fucking eat it or throw it away. That's what this book was. This was the leftovers that I just had to do something with.
You just had to deal with it, yep.
Yep.
Well, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
And for any listeners, let us know what you think of the show, what kind of books and stuff you want us to read.
Yes, we would love suggestions. I usually just wander around Goodwill looking at the books and see what I can find. Bam Bam usually looks at Goodreads, apparently. But we would love suggestions about, really bad books, really bad authors. We really can use all the help we could get.
But until next episode, thanks. Thanks for listening. We love you.
Maybe.
Probably not, but...
Bye.
I don't like most people, so...
Bye.
Bye.
It's a Midwestern goodbye.